Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Centre at the Consulate General of India in Durban, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Dr. R.T. Govender, Mr. Edwin Cleophas, Ms. Priti Ngube, Mr. Sipiwe Mchunu, Mr. Piyush Khandalwal, distinguished guests and online viewers, namaskar and welcome to a very important day, and that is Freedom Day of South Africa celebrations, with the theme being Freedom under COVID-19. Indeed, today celebrates 27 years that South Africa has become a republic. And to commence today's program, I'd like to welcome our first guest speaker, and that is Dr. R.T. Govender, the Executive Director of Mzansi Empowerment Enterprise based in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Namaste and welcome, Dr. R.T. Govender.
Namaste and a very, very warm welcome, right, to all our guests. It is an absolute delight being part of this very, very interesting program, a program where we all pause today and reflect on our role as South Africans during, celebrating and observing Freedom Day. Right. So basically, freedom, what does it mean during 2021? As I mentioned, we as South Africans, like the rest of the world, are experiencing a global pandemic. We have successfully observed and celebrated South Africa's freedom post-democracy from a very, very painful past where, as South Africans, we were not subjected to having freedom in a country that we were born in. However, post-democracy, we have all, achieved our freedom under very, very difficult circumstances. Lots of bloodshed, lots of people were incarcerated, lots of people fought very, very hard, lots of people were assassinated, lots of people were killed in the process of achieving this freedom. So that is why freedom in South Africa is very, very special, because it's special because lots of bloodshed have been put in order for us to achieve and celebrate and observe our freedom. But, I would like to acknowledge the important role that the Consulate of India is playing in providing these platforms for us to showcase and for us to express ourselves during these very, very important periods. And that is why when I talk about freedom in South Africa, I'll also talk about people that have contributed towards this freedom. And one very, very important individual that have contributed immensely, and he was, like I always say, he was a laboratory of awareness, and that is Mahatma Gandhi, right? As you know, Mahatma Gandhi came to South Africa as an ordinary lawyer to fight a case for a businessman in South Africa. However, during his stay in South Africa, he has had first-hand experience of the atrocities of, great inhumanity, and therefore he contributed towards planting the seeds of freedom in the minds of many politicians. Now, I always say the day that Mahatma Gandhi was thrown out of the train in Pietermaritzburg on this cold winter day, he was still a lawyer. But the day that he was thrown on that platform, he immediately was a transformed individual. Transformed in a sense that I would say that whole experience was a laboratory of awareness, because it became a martyr. It became such an important, significant role in inculcating freedom in the minds of many people. People like Mahatma Gandhi acknowledged the important role. People like Nelson Mandela acknowledged the important role that Mahatma Gandhi played in their struggle for freedom. So as we celebrate freedom, I would like to acknowledge the important role of people in India like Veerapandiya Kattabomman, who refused to accept the sovereignty of the British East India Company, and he waged a war against the British. And therefore, we have people like B.R. Ambedkar, a politician who campaigned and negotiated for independence in India. Another very, very close, a person that is very close to my heart is Subramani Bharatiya, right? Who, in his own way, through his writings, through his poetry, and through his music, right, promoted the idea of freedom to the masses in India. And we can go on, like Subhash Chandra Bose, Rani of Jhansi, Sarojini Naidu, and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel are all very, very important individuals that contributed immensely to India's freedom. Like that, in South Africa, we had Nelson Mandela, we had Oliver Tambo, we had Walter Sisulu, we had a whole range of people that we acknowledge as the fathers of freedom in South Africa. But as the team this year is observing Freedom Day during COVID-19, I must say to all the listeners and viewers out there, this whole experience from March 2020 was a very, very great experience because it gave people an opportunity of grouping together as individuals. Because as human beings, we get so caught up with our daily activities, working, school, universities, etc., that sometimes we forget that we are human beings. And that is why during the COVID period, where our freedom was restricted and we had to stay at home during lockdown conditions, that alone was an education experience because families started bonding, people started interacting, learning about their children's lives, learning about their parents and so on. And that restriction of our freedom assisted us in having a new perspective of life. And that to me was very, very important. So as we observe Freedom Day today, dear people, throughout the world, let us remember that all those people that fought for freedom, let us remember the important role they played in today's observance, where we celebrate Freedom Day during post COVID-19 conditions. So with that, I would like to say that we have a number of people on the panel with a variety of interests and a variety of perspectives. The greatest thing that we should do as we move forward is to allow our freedom to assist us to create a strong bond with humanity, because we are experiencing widespread violence. We are experiencing murders. We are experiencing gender-based violence. People are not free anymore in their own homes because there's so many disturbances. People are not free on the roads anymore. There are people that are driving recklessly. So we are scared. The day that we leave our homes to go to another destination, we are scared of what we are going to experience on the road. We are scared of what we're going to experience in a mall, whether our vehicles are still going to be there anymore. So what freedom is there? When society has now changed its mindset, where society in partaking in unsavory criminal activity is restricting the freedom of people. So therefore, why must we have lockdown conditions and COVID-19, a global pandemic, to keep us at home and be safe? Let us go back to society, but let us go back with the knowledge that we are able to move around. We should be able to move with happiness. We should be able to visit people knowing that we are safe on the roads. So my appeal during Freedom Day 2021, let us now eradicate widespread violence. Let us eradicate racism, because in the last few years, we've had so many incidences of racism and gender-based violence and man's inhumanity to men. Let us now transform our mindset and let us once again be free, free as human beings, free to do what we are able to do as that God Almighty gave us a purpose to be on this earth, let us satisfy that God Almighty without being restricted from doing things. So I would like to wish everyone well during this period, and I'm convinced the other panelists have also some very, very insightful contribution to make. So thank you so much for the Indian Consulate for giving us a platform today. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you so much, Dr. R.T. Govender, for those remarks today on the occasion of Freedom Day of South Africa. I'd like to now welcome our next guest speaker, and that's Ms. Pretty Nkube, who is the Director of the Action Support Center in Gauteng. Welcome and namaste, Ms. Pretty.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon. There we go. Thank you.
Oh my word! Thank you so much. I don't know if it's covered a lot in speakers, folks, about me Charlotte McClellan, and he covered the most part of what I wanted to say, which is very unfair. Hallelujah! But I'm happy and honored to be here, and for us to be celebrating this woman that some of us look up to. I think I'm just going to build on to what others have already said about her, because I don't want to repeat that. But some of us are what we are today. The activism that we've embarked on because of people like Charlotte McClellan. I think a lot of women in South Africa have managed to come out of their shells. Our culture at times is oppressive on its own. We're talking about Freedom Day. We're talking about the colonialism, but we're still not free, especially when it comes to women, right? We have issues of land, where in some cultures women are not supposed to own land, and we look at the struggles that our icons fought for. My other speaker spoke about the issues of dumpers, right? In as much as we are free to have we have IDs and that now don't restrict us from moving from one province to another like it was before, but we still not free in the sense that documentation is what's supposed to identify me as a human being, right? I'm not free to go to another African country because I'm born maybe in South Africa, I'm born in Zimbabwe, I'm born in Nigeria, I'm born in where. And if you look at the struggles that Mam Makwele and other women fought for, I don't think it was just for South Africa only. It was for African women and children. But today we face a situation where this identity document that we're supposed to carry across a passport or something is still not different from what happened in South Africa in the past, because you cannot cross and go somewhere else without it. So still have to learn to say, what is it that May Makwele at that time did, and what is it that we can do now as women moving forward, to say, what is it that we can do in order to free us from these restrictions that are there in Africa, for us to be able to trade as women, to be able to own land as women, to be able to participate, to be leaders, to have more presidents in Africa. And I feel if May Makwele, we had more people who had that spirit like her, which we do have, but I think we still have a long way. We are scared, we are limited in certain areas. But if we can go back and look at how they did it, I mean, for them to organize, sorry about that, I'm sorry about that, for them to organize about 10,000 women, during that difficult time where you didn't have, the social media to send in WhatsApp, you didn't have the space where they were operating in was very oppressive, but they managed to do that. What is it that we can learn from them and be able to do something different today to free our people? We are free. Today we're talking today, engaging with the whole world, engaging with people about our struggles as women, our victories as women, our victories as human beings, it's because of what they've done. And I think what we can take from Mama Krele and others is to say, what is it that we can do going forward? Right now, there are a lot of ladies, women in South Africa that are doing great work, who are, for me, I think the ones that are known, they are okay. But we have heroes on the ground, in places like in Alexandra, for example, you can see Mema characters there. In places in Soweto, for example, in informal settlement, people who are making a difference in their own, constituencies. So I think those are the people that we should also celebrate as we celebrate Freedom Day, because if it wasn't for the struggles in the past, they would not be able to do what they are doing today. Yes, we have challenges. Yes, some people still don't have homes, but I think in the past few years, there's so much that has been done by the government. Of course, there's more that still needs to be done. But I think as I'm sitting here today, and all of us sitting here today, we can say, yes, we do have freedom. Yes, I can move to Soweto without being asked for a passport or pay pass. I can go to Eastern Cape without being asked, where are you going? And that's the freedom that we should celebrate. Of course, economically, we still have a lot of challenges, intolerance in our communities, service delivery challenges. There's a lot that we still need to do, but we would like more women. I think I would like to encourage more women to be, to take on the baton from our mama Charlotte Makrele, so that we can be able to change the situations of our children. Someone talked about GBV, social cohesion advocates in arts and culture. We are busy with GBV programs on the ground. We are engaging with men as well. We're happy that there are more men that are involved in these discussions, and we cannot do it without men taking charge. And I was hoping that since it was celebration of our Freedom Day, and we are celebrating under the theme and the government, the year of Ma'am Charlotte Makwege, I was hoping that the consulate will invite more women. I can see Abo Baba, it's okay, I'm not complaining, but yeah, what I'm happy about is just today that we're sitting here sharing and having Abu Baba sharing about this beautiful soul that we still, after 150 years, we're still talking about her, we're still celebrating her, we're still learning from her, and many other women past work that, and I'm just going to encourage more women to reflect, go back, and say, what lessons can we take from such women, wonderful women that did wonderful work for us to be where we are today? We're sitting, we're able to talk, to share, simply because of the struggles that they went through. So with those short words, I would like to say thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Miss Pretty, for that insight today on Freedom Day celebrations. Our next guest speaker is remarks by Mr. Edwin Cleophas, the chairman of the Social Justice Agency in Cape Town, South Africa. Namaste and welcome, Edwin G.
Thank you very much for that, Shisti. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this occasion, which is very important, as was mentioned by Dr. Raj. The freedom that we are enjoying in South Africa today was not cheap. It came with a lot of bloodshed, and it came with a lot of struggle. A struggle that went on for a lot of decades. So not days, not weeks or months, but decades. And sometimes it's important when we celebrate these days that we understand how we came to be free to have this discussion today without being prohibited from talking about it. And we have to understand that there were certain people that played a pivotal and vital role in getting us this far. I think one of the things that I would like to add that Dr. Raj has already mentioned, the whole list of social ills that we are struggling with in society. Paramount to that is the violence being enacted towards our women and children, that we should be upholding in society because they have played a major role in creating the society that we are living in today, which is very important. Also, human rights have been violated across the world, and we cannot accept the status quo as it stands. So our freedom only coincides with the freedom of all our family, our friends, and our brothers, whether they are living next door to me or across the sea in India or wherever they live on this planet. Their human rights should not be violated and should be respected regardless. And I think that those are some of the things when we celebrating freedom that we need to be very clear and adamant about, that all human beings, regardless of where they are, need to be valued for their contribution. And I think it's in celebrating this day, we can call up a few people who have led the way, and I specifically will be highlighting one person in particular, but there's so many to speak about. But a female in particular that we can speak about, which is Charlotte Muteka from South Africa, who is currently being celebrated because it's a centenary celebration in South Africa. And here we're dealing with a female at a time when it was not very popular for women to stand at the forefront of change. This woman actually educated herself not just in one country but across countries at a time again when it wasn't fashionable, and the type of leadership that she obtained was not even as spectacular as some of the leading capacity that she had to come back to South Africa and to develop the type of leadership that we so desperately even need today, where she came and she stood up against some of the unfair rules and the oppressive laws that was facing South Africans. And I think those are some of the things that we need to celebrate, that somebody and then in our society we like to view women as the weaker sex in society, but this is absolutely not true, as we have seen over the historical centuries that we've been on this planet, that women have constantly stood at the forefront of fighting for justice and the type of freedom that we are celebrating today. And Charlotte was one of those ladies. I think for those who don't know, and it should be well, um, uh, uh, um, it should have been well highlighted across historic books, that South Africa had something that was called a pass law, where we had to move around with books, little booklets like identity books that dedicated certain areas where we may move and times where we may move. And Charlotte commends with a big group of females to the political structure under apartheid, and they demolished and destroyed their passes, which was against the law, and you were prosecuted and arrested for that. But that is the type of um, opposition and bravery that we saw from women under that struggle, where, like Dr. Raj said, a lot of people lost their lives, a lot of blood was shed. But it is these very critical figures that come through the ranks that basically fought so that we can have these freedoms. And I think under COVID, it has become very clear that we should not rest on what has already been done, but we should becoming more active and looking at new ways to develop even further freedoms, because there are certain freedoms that are still only resting with certain people and others are excluded. If I can make one such example, when we speak about the current pandemic that has been disrupting all our lives across the world, COVID-19, and we look at the development of the COVID-19 vaccine and the rollout of that vaccine, then it is clear to most of us that the oppressive system is still in place. Colonialism has found new ways to oppress those of us who they see as lesser or less than deserving, or under colonialism, less than human. So now, instead of making sure that all countries enjoy this uh, global wealth and health under this COVID-19, the wealth under these first world countries are being used to hog all the vaccines, even if they can't use it, instead of saving a life in a country where it's so much more needed. So I think those are some of the things that we need to continue the struggle for. Those are some of the things under COVID-19 we need to think about. And like Dr. Raj said earlier, we were locked up in our house for almost a full year. And I think we had a lot of time to think about it. And coming out of lockdown, I think we came out with such a passion and hunger to continue building a social cohesion project where all our people can feel that there is a movement in the atmosphere where the needs of people are put in front, and the capitalist system of finance first are lagging a bit behind. And I think that that is the social system we should be gearing towards, where a human life are more important than the mighty dollar. And I think that is the goal that we need to go for this Freedom Day. Thank you very much.
What beautiful remarks by Mr. Edwin Cleophas. Thank you so much, sir, for those remarks today, celebrating 20 years of freedom of South Africa. I'd like to also take this opportunity to say Yabonga Utata Madiba for giving us freedom in South Africa, and to Ma Charlotte as well for emancipating not just women but every South African. With that, we've come to the conclusion of today's celebrations, and that is the 27th Freedom Day celebrations of South Africa. And I'd like to invite my colleague Mr. Sipiwe Mchunu from the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Centre at the Consulate General of India in Durban to render this afternoon's victorious vote of thanks.
Namaskar to all of you. Namaskar again to all of you. On behalf of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Centre, I am so delighted today to deliver a vote of thanks on today's program, Freedom of South Africans Celebrations, under the theme Freedom Under COVID-19. You know, on this day, it is still vividly in my mind what happened on the 27th of April, 1994. I remember I saw early in the morning, long queues, young and adults joining with one purpose: to cast their vote independently. When I close my eyes, I can still see those visuals in me where I saw young and old who voted for their respective parties, who were freed to decide on their future. So in me, there is a sense that whatever happened in 27 April 1994, even today, I still believe that some of our founding fathers, they drew their strengths, I'm 100% sure, from some of the freedom fighters. If I'm saying freedom fighters from India, I'm talking about Subhash Chandra Bose. I believe our leaders learned a lot from him. Villabhai Patel, I believe our leaders learned a lot from him. And also Dr. Ambedkar, B.R. Ambedkar, a man who fought to fight patriarchy, a man who fought for all those who were oppressed, a man who fought to free all those people who were undermined. So that is why today, like Umama Unube, she's saying there's still a lot to be done, but slowly, I am sure if all of us can apply all our minds correctly, South Africa is going there. We can learn from other countries like India. We have a lot to learn from India. and with India as they did before. I remember in Bandung Conference in Indonesia in 1956, where there was an Afro-Asian countries meeting, where Nehru said the freedom of India is not complete up until the freedom of Africa, not of South Africa, up until the freedom of Africa is gained. We know after that cooperation between India and Africa in particular, the freedoms in African countries were like breakfast in Africa. Every year from 1960, you'll find one country is gaining freedom. Every year you'll find 1961 African country is gaining freedom. That is why I'm saying I am 100% sure that their strength were gained from the founding fathers of India. Now allow me to thank those who participated online. Firstly, I will start with Dr. R.T. Govender, ex-director of Mzansi Empowerment Enterprise. He is based in KwaZulu-Natal, and I also heard today is in Gauteng. So I'd like to say, Doctor, thank you very much for the remarks that you gave. Thank you for reminding us that there is no inch of us that we can do to undermine this freedom we are cherishing today. It was a hard-earned freedom. Some people lost their husbands. Some people lost their uncles. Some people lost their fathers. Some people lost their mothers because the apartheid had no gender. If you were on their way, they will make sure they remove. Thank you very much, Dr. Govender, for reminding us. It is all upon us to add our value in this freedom, because all of us, we understand that the main purpose of this freedom was for them. They were saying we need to work and gel together like a piano that has black chords and white chords. If you know what you are doing, you play them regularly and nicely, you will find the rhythm, you will find the harmony between the black key and the white key. That was the main purpose of them. They were saying all of us, irrespective of our colors, let us gel and work together. Thank you, Dr. Govender. Secondly, I'd like to thank Edwin Cleopas G. He is a chairman of Social Justice Agency in Cape Town. Thank you very much, sir, for reminding us again that there's no need for us to take today's event for granted. You also reminded us that on this day, lots of people lost their lives. On this day, lots of, before the freedom of 27th of April, there were lots of orphans in South Africa. So there's no need for us to take all this for granted. Before 94, you mentioned Edward G. You said there was no freedom of speech. Because if it was before 94, what you are doing now, there will be people who are planted to listen to us what we are saying. But today we are saying we are free. Free of doing everything. Freedom of choice, freedom of speech. To you, Edwin G, thank you very much, Mr. Edwin. May God bless you. Now allow me to thank Priti Ngube. She's a director of Action Support Center in Gauteng, Johannesburg. Ma'am, I believe I'll say also this. If we are all together, there is no life for patriarchy in our countries. All of us are fighting for one purpose, that when we look to a fellow human being, we are looking not on the gender, looking on the genderless. We cannot promote the gender thing. We have to fight for those who abuse our ladies. I have to look at our ladies as our ladies. So I promise you that in South Africa after 1994, there is no room for patriarchy. Slowly, slowly, if we are together, if we fight with common cause, there is a sense in me that together we will stand, divided, we'll fall. All of us, we have to hold one another's hand and move forward and saying, Aluta continua, the struggles continues. To all of you, I'd like to say all our guest line, Dr. Gavenda G, Priti Ngube G, Edwin Clovers G, thank you. May God bless all of you. To Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Director of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Centre at the Consulate General of India, Sri Piyush Khandelwal, thank you once again for taking part on this auspicious program. This is a problem, if you think probably nicely, you'll end up seeing tears running down your face because we know where we were coming from. We know what took place in our lives before 1927. We know that we were nobody. We were given names. But on this day, on the 27th of April, South Africans united and victory belonged to them. To all those who participated online, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking part on today's program. Please visit our Facebook page so that you will be updated about all Cultural Center activities. Once again, to all our online guest speakers, I'd like to say to all of you, have a wonderful evening. Namaskar.